Welcome back. This is PonyFans Live, brought to you by Lakewood's First and 10 at the northeast corner of Mockingbird and Abrams in Dallas, and the place to watch the SMU East Carolina game this Friday at 1 o'clock. Gameday Cloth, win or lose, love your clothes. Visit their store at the corner of Legacy and the Tollway in Plano, or their website, gamedaycloth.com and ponyfans.com. The oldest, largest, and fastest growing website dedicated to the SMU Mustangs and Pony fans everywhere. We are joined now by senior cornerback Sterling Moore, and when the conversation turns to number 2, on defense that is, the first thing that's going to come up is the knee. You've heard it 3 times in 2 years, came back this past week against Marshall. Give us an update. How does it feel? How did it feel in that game against Marshall?
In the game against Marshall, it felt pretty good solely because I got a shot before the game. So that really helped. But, I mean, after the game the next day and still even today, it's really sore. But I'll get another shot before this next game, and I'm sure I'll be good to go.
Now, you said before the game, or last week, before leading up to the game, you could run on it, you could cut on it, and what concerned you was jumping and how explosive you would be. You did go up in the air a couple of times the other day. Were you nervous coming down, or how did that feel, the actual impact when you hit the ground?
I really didn't think about it, actually. I mean, once you're in the air and your mind's telling your body what to do, you really don't think about it. So it was one of those things where I just did it, and I really didn't worry about the consequences. If it hurt, it was gonna hurt. If not, it wasn't gonna hurt. But I mean, I think having the shot really helped. Did not hurt.
How do you get past that, though? I mean, you've heard it 3 times in 2 years. How do you get past the fear that, oh no, it might happen again? If you got to stop really fast, if you got to change directions, what do you do to get that past that block in your mind?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where when you first go out there, it's on your mind. And I'd probably say the first 3 or 4 plays, it was on my mind. I was kind of conscious about it. But once you figure out that, you know, your knee's going to hold up when you cut or when you plant and when you do things like that, I think it kind of tells your mind that, you know, you don't need to worry about your knee anymore.
Now, you said that the first knee injury this year, early in the year, and the second one were different. How so? What was different in terms of what went on in your knee?
Against UAB, it just kind of shifted. You know, it didn't come completely out. In practice, right before Navy, it came completely out and stayed out.
So was there any thought in your mind of shutting it down and having surgery? Because you're going to have surgery after the season anyway, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have surgery.
Okay. Was there any thought to shutting it down and saying, I've got to get this thing repaired?
There was some serious thought. I mean, there was days where I was at the apartment, I was like, I'm done with this. You know, that was my last game. Tulsa was my last game, and I'm going to just get the surgery and try to rehab and get ready for pro day. And then I'd wake up and I'd be like, you know what, I got to go into rehab and get back. And then game days was the hardest. You know, I'll go out, watch the team play on TV, and it was, you know, that was the worst part, and that was the deciding factor in whether or not I was going to come back.
All right, without getting away from where we are here, it should be noted that these 2 guys are roommates. So when he's hobbling around and watching you play, how difficult was he as a roommate when he's trying to decide what to do with the future of his knee?
He's not too difficult. He kind of really kept to himself, so it wasn't really that bad. But he sent me some texts after the game, laughing at me or something when I did something embarrassing or did something wrong. But he'd get on me if I played bad. So, I mean, I'd rather him be there. So, I mean.
Well, yeah. All right. Enough injury talk. When you look, we good? When you look at the defense this year, you're giving up 1.5 fewer than last year. 40 yards fewer than last year, but you lost some very talented guys off that defense from a year ago. Chase Kennemer, Chris Parham, Rock Dennis, Bryce Hudman, some guy named Brian McCann who's making a little noise in the NFL right now. You lose talent like that, why is this defense having at least as much success, if not even a little more this year?
We have higher expectations than we did last year. And the guys that come in and replace, you know, the guys that left, we have to pull those guys up to the higher expectations than we had last year. And that's something we really worked on in the offseason is, you know, going in and watching film with the young guys and the guys that are going to be replacing those guys. So, you know, we really wanted to pull those guys up to the higher expectations that we had.
Are those numbers an accurate reflection of what's going on? Is this really a better defense? Or is it, you know, different opponents and different days and weather conditions and all the things that factor into the stats that come out every Saturday. Do you think this really is a better unit than a year ago?
It's tough to say, but I mean, I feel like it's a better defense because a lot of the guys are older than they were last year, and you know, there's a lot more experience. I mean, even the young guys like Taylor Reed, he's only a sophomore. He played a lot last year. He got a lot of experience. So guys like that, you know, they really help us out, and I feel like to an extent we're a better defense, but last year's defense was pretty amazing.
You mentioned these young guys who have stepped up into bigger roles. Taylor Reed, Jagarrett Davis. Also new guys like Richard Crawford, your opposite corner. Who has surprised you the most? Based on what you saw early in preseason camp to where they're playing now, who's developed the most or surprised you the most over the course of this year?
Probably Ryan Smith. I mean, you know, he was a guy who came in and was recruited as a corner and got moved to safety, and you know, it's really been 2 years since he stepped on the field, and you know, he's really come in and played well, and you know, he's got some big interceptions for us, a big fumble. And, you know, it's a guy that coming in, you know, it's kind of how is he going to mesh with the defense, how he's going to mesh with the secondary, and he's coming in and meshed real well. He put his time in the offseason, and, you know, you see it on the field.
All right, one more question related to your injury. Now that you're back out on the field, you're playing with a brace on your leg. What do you do? Are you a different player now? Do you have to cheat a little bit in the way you approach a receiver or in your positioning, your technique? How much has it affected the way you play the game, as opposed to simply your speed or your quickness?
I don't know if it's affected the way I play in a sense that, you know, I kind of have to switch up my technique or anything. That's one thing that Coach Odom's really been on me about is staying with the technique that I had before. So if anything, I say it makes me be a little bit more physical with receivers than I was before, just so I can get a hand on them and slow them down.
All right, the guy we just mentioned across the field from you, Richard Crawford, is the reigning Conference USA Defensive Player of the Week. He had 6 tackles and a couple interceptions in your win over Marshall. And after the game, he said that he looks up to you a lot and that you helped him with advice that led to him becoming a better college football player. What did you see in him, and what kind of things have you tried to share with him that helped him develop at this level?
Probably just to trust his technique. You kind of see him, you know, his technique is good in practice, and then when he gets to the game, he kind of lets it go out the window at points. And that was one thing that I really harped to him was, you know, stay with your technique. You know, you're easier to get beat when you do your own thing out there, and lately he's been, you know, working on his technique and working on it in the game. And I also told him, you know, you're fast, you know, drive all the short routes. Guys aren't really going to beat you deep, and the deeper routes are the harder routes, so make them throw those routes.
He got sort of kicked in the deep end in the opener against Texas Tech, but has sort of steadily gotten better week to week over the course of the year. What do you see as the biggest improvement in his game since he arrived in August?
Probably just experience. You know, first real D1 game at Texas Tech. It's a tough place to play. I feel like he was real nervous, and you know, now he's kind of settled into his own, and he, you know, I think you see on the field that he's more confident out there.
And when you first got here last fall, I remember doing an interview with you where you said, I'm just like the freshman. I'm a new guy sort of trying to fit in.
Right.
Now you're an old man. Now you're one of the seniors on this team. Is practice different? Does Coach Odom treat you differently now that you're the experienced guy, one of the veteran leaders of the secondary?
Absolutely not. He has the same standards of working hard and everything as a freshman do. I mean, he wants me to be in film study just as much as they are. I mean, even though I know the defense in and out, or at least the secondary part of it, you know, he wants me in film just as much as the young guys and to take just as many reps as they take. Not so much now that I've been hurt, but before. But so, no, he really doesn't treat me any different.
All right, your old partner in crime, Brian McCann, has gotten a lot of headlines the last few weeks. 3 weeks on the active roster in the NFL. He's got a Special Teams Player of the Week award. He's got a Defensive Player of the Week award. How surprised are you by the amount of success that he's had so early?
I'm not too surprised at all. I mean, I know what he can do, and it was just a matter of time before he showed the world what he can do. And you know, I talk to him pretty regularly, and you know, when he wasn't on the active roster, I just told him to keep his head up, and you know, when he gets his chance, just to ball out, and you know, he's taking his opportunity by storm.
Tomorrow you've got 2 former SMU players going head-to-head. Brian with the Cowboys and Thomas Morstead, the punter and kickoff guy for the Saints. If you're Thomas Morstead, do you kick away from Brian? Do you aim at Des Bryant?
No, because even when, I mean, you can look at last, B-Mac still picked it up and ran it back. So I feel like with those two guys back there, you got to pick your poison.
Along those same lines, you've got a couple interceptions this year, but you also seem to have this innate ability to, just as a guy makes a catch, strip the ball out. Do you find teams throwing away from you because of that yet? Or maybe they do and they don't admit it?
I mean, I wouldn't say they throw away from me, but I mean, I kind of feel like they're conscious of me being over there. So to an extent, yes, but I mean, I kind of wish teams would throw at me a little bit more.
Right, but if you're a quarterback or the offensive coach or another team, and you look over and you see Sterling Moore, do you see a senior who knocks the ball away a lot, or do you see a guy coming back off of knee injuries and think that's the guy I'm going to aim at?
Probably a guy who's coming back off of a knee injury, and that's who we're going to aim at, and that's what I'm hoping for. Because I feel like that, I mean, just because I'm coming back off an injury, I feel like it hasn't really slowed me down at all. I feel like I'm healthy enough where I can still make the plays that I was making before, so I hope they throw at me.
Where does that ability come from? There have been several games, the TCU game comes to mind, where you had at least 3 or 4 where it looked like the guy had it in his hands and you were able to rip it away. It's more than just being in the right place. Where does that ability come in terms of being able to strip all those balls out of there?
We do a drill in practice almost every day where, you know, we're working with, you have a partner in a DB drill and he puts his hands up, you know, right as he's about to catch the ball, and you got to strip the ball away from him. And that's something that is really transferred over to the games, and that's so that's just an example of taking what you learn in practice and executing it on the field.
All right, when we come back, this is a very big week for SMU. They are bowl eligible, but they can clinch the Western Division of Conference USA with a win Friday at East Carolina. When we come back, we're going to talk to both Cole and Sterling about the East Carolina game. This is PonyFans Live.